Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. How y'all doing? I think I'm just accepting that it's going to be a one episode a week kind of thing for a while. Eventually, I may get back up to doing more than one episode a week consistently, and I did record an episode yesterday, but it was really disjointed. So, we have received an announcement that there will be a B&R announcement next Monday. I really miss scheduled B&R announcements, honestly. Like, I understand that it led to some times where they were reluctant to do an emergency ban, and so led to some grossness. Whereas now they kind of have the ability to, like, whenever there's a ban needed, they just issue the ban, right? And I guess give us a heads up, like they've done here. And to be completely fair, there's really no good way of doing this, right? Bans suck. So there's no real great way of, like, this is how we're going to handle bans. They have to, come up with what they think is best for the player base. So, as much as I preferred scheduled bans, I understand why they're going this route, because how many times was the B&R announcement, no changes to any formats? And then times where we did have an issue and kind of really needed an emergency ban, they were very reluctant to do it because we already have a scheduled cycle for these things, and going off that schedule, is not great. So, anyway, this is the system we're doing now. When a ban is coming, they, I guess, let us know a week ahead of time that a ban is coming. A ban in some format. And no, at least in this case, no real information was given, though I think we all know what's most likely to be hit here. It's quite likely a ban is going to be issued that affects, at minimum, Dimir Inverter. Now, they may decide that they have to preemptively hit other decks, like Sultai Delirium, and even possibly Lotus Breach, though Lotus Breach seems way more interactable. I don't know what word I'm looking for here. I'm going to say it's, like, easy to take down, but there seem to be a good many options that, if used in combination with, an actual game plan, like, just like against Tron, you can't just slam a Blood Moon on the table and be like, waha, I win, because no, Tron eventually will just get there anyway, or remove the Blood Moon, or both, If you don't follow up that Blood Moon with some kind of pressure to put them on their heels, they're going to kill you anyway. And it seems to be similar with Lotus Breach, that there are plenty of ways to knock the deck off its axis and kind of leave it floundering for a minute while it tries to deal with that. But if you can follow that up with pressure of some kind, whatever kind that may be, while they're trying to deal with the initial problem piece, it slows down their combo. So, I don't know that Lotus Breach, like, the format seems to be having a better time adapting to Lotus Breach than Dimir Inverter. Sultai Delirium currently isn't a problem, but it's a very good deck. And I do worry that it's gonna swoop in and fill the vacuum left by whatever deck gets nerfed or straight up, booted from the format. And then everybody's going to be up in arms about that deck. But at least, again, with Sultai Delirium, there's a little more angles to interact with, I guess. Man, I sound like really dumb. I can't words today. So I don't know. It does suck that this ban announcement will be coming on Monday when there is a straight up Pioneer Open the following weekend. And yeah, BNR announcements will always come before a tournament. That's true. But it's a dedicated Pioneer tournament. It's not even team where it's like, oh, okay, one of your seats is going to suffer a bit. It's straight up Pioneer, and Pioneer is the most likely place a ban is going to be dished out based on the current status of things. Like, Modern seems to be chugging along pretty good. Standard actually seems to be in the best spot it's been in for quite some time. I hung out in Versus Live today for a little bit, and even Corey was talking about that he just really doesn't think Azurius Control is that great a call in Standard right now because the field is too diverse. And Control decks only really do well when the format's a little more condensed, so that, they have the answers they need. Like, when a format has both heavy spell-based decks, non-creature spell-based decks and creature-based decks, it makes your ability to control a little less good, because there are so few efficient just counter the spell counters, and there are like none in Standard. They're all crazy expensive. The cheap counter spells are target this type of spell, or target non-creature spell. So control's not, hard control's just not in a great spot right now. Control with board wipes, again, in your non-creature matchups, the board wipes are kind of dead cards, so hopefully you have something that can filter those a little bit. But yeah, Standard actually seems to be in a relatively good spot. I've been running around Arena with Sparkle Pants, also known as Witch Enchant. It's this green-white enchantment deck that I'm pretty sure it's Zuby from Magic with Zuby DM'd me on Twitter, and I only run around best of one, and it's one of those decks that, I really enjoy playing my Mono Black Devotion deck, so it's the one I gravitate towards, but I'm like, oh, I have to cast green spells. Cool, we'll play Sparkle Bands. That deck is so much fun, and, it does okay. No, I'm not hitting Mythic with it. Right now, I'm grinding back to gold, because the season ended when I wasn't looking. But it's, just a fun kind of deck to, screw around with. I haven't tried it in best of 3. I imagine it holds up less well in best of 3. But, I don't know. Standard just seems to be in a good place. Pioneer, on the other hand, is having just, a bit of a struggle. But the reality is Pioneer will probably continue to go through these iterations for the next year or so, while the format finds its definition and kind of the rules are established for, what's a problem in the format and what's okay. Right now, we don't seem to have a lot of that. Inverter, I guess it's technically a turn 5 deck, because turn 4 you cast the Inverter, and turn 5 you cast the Thassa's Oracle. And when you say win on turn 5, that doesn't sound very impressive, you know? But when your win on turn 5 is supported by hand disruption, you know, removal and counter spells, and you can basically stall the game out those first 3 turns. Yeah, no, it's turns out it's pretty damn good. And is a turn 5 consistent combo too early? You know, does it need to be, you know, only if the combo can consistently go off later in the game? I don't know. That's what I mean. Pioneer still has to kind of find its definition, because we don't have a lot of definition for it. We have, you know, what era it covers, and we have a ban list. But we don't have a lot of... There's just not a lot of, like, we can look at the previous bans and go, oh, okay, winning on this turn is too soon. And then that's what these banned cards facilitated. No, we had Mono Green Devotion's best deck in the format, ban something from it. Okay, cool. Mono Green Devotion's still the best deck in the format. Alright, ban something from it. Alright, cool. Now Mono Black Aggro. Alright, ban something from it. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of, at least from what I can see, correlating reasoning behind these bans. So it's tough to tell what the structure of the format is yet. And I think WotC's kind of trying to give it a chance to define itself. So that being said, we're between the announcement that Throne of Eldraine is now kind of the considered base power level for standard sets, and that Pioneer still has some identity to find, it's going to be rough. Change always is. But eventually it will find its way, and I did see somebody point out that the real frustration they have with the Dimir Inverter deck is that Saheeli Cat was determined to be too broken for Pioneer, and it's very similar in its approach. You know, even down to, like, at what point in the game with 0 interaction from your opponent can you get there? I actually thought that was a really good point. We determined that Saheeli Cat and that's fair. Saheeli Cat was an obnoxious deck. It was an obnoxious deck in Standard. I wasn't sad to see it go in Pioneer. Because we don't, like, Saheeli Cat tried to be a thing in Modern for a hot minute and couldn't make it. It's Modern just has too many efficient answers to that. So, and Modern's too fast for that combo. But Pioneer was slow enough for it to be a problem, and Dimir hits around the same point in the game, using a similar strategy of control the game until, and that's the thing, Saheeli Cat, just like Dimir Inverter, wasn't a combo deck in the strictest sense, in that it was basically a control deck that had a combo finish. I know even when it was in Standard, the thing to do was counterboard. When your opponent sideboarded, and they sideboarded their hate for the combo, you just sided out the combo pieces and changed the direction that the deck went in. So it's a control deck that happens to have a combo in it. And it's the same kind of thing with Dimir Inverter, except isn't Saheeli Cat 3 colors? Because isn't Saheeli, is it colored? I think she is. And the cat, of course, being white. So now, you not only only have a deck that follows the same kind of trajectory as a deck that was determined that needed to be banned, it's easier on the mana. Well, alright, that may not be strictly true, being that the allied mana in Pioneer is not fantastic. In any case, Dimir Inverter is a control deck with a combo finish in it. And that's why you're not really seeing the same gripe about, like, the Heliod Ballista combo decks. Because you don't have the control aspect to make the combo more assured. You don't have the cantrip stick for the pieces. You don't have the counterspell protection from somebody trying to disrupt. You know, you have to come across your combo pieces relatively naturally. Like, you do have the owl that lets you dig a little bit. But you have to come across these combo pieces relatively naturally. We're still looking at, like, a turn 4 combo in the best of circumstances. Like, the best way you can pull off the Heliod Ballista combo is turn 2 Daxos, turn 3 Heliod, turn 4 Walking Ballista for 2. Well, for 1, make it a 1/1, paying 2 mana for it. And then with the trigger from Daxos, you put the second counter on Walking Ballista, and you still have the 2 mana up to activate Heliod targeting Walking Ballista to pull off the infinite damage combo. But you need a lot of pieces. You know, you have to have a lot of things go right for you, and your opponent can't have a fatal push, you know, to take out your Daxos. Otherwise, it delays, you know, your ability to combo off. And the other thing is, you have to let pieces of the combo sit vulnerable on the battlefield, which is a big thing that Dimir Inverter does not do. Once the inverter hits the battlefield, its job's done. You can remove it. You know, whatever. It doesn't change the ability to combo out. You can maybe remove the Thassa's Oracle depending on how things are set. You know, when they really go for it, with the hope that, you know, with no devotion to blue, they can't get to that, you know, where they're looking at more cards than are in their library. But again, they have time to wait for the Thassa's Oracle. So they can wait until they're in a position for, you know, it to just not matter. Whereas most other combo decks, you know, the kind of little combos we see in Pioneer rely on pieces sticking to the battlefield. Like, even Saheeli Cat relied on the pieces staying on the battlefield. Like, if you killed Saheeli in response to them playing or putting the Feldar Guardian on the stack, the combo couldn't happen. Dimir Inverter doesn't have that limitation. Most of its pieces, they just need to live for a very short time to do their job. So, I think the deck's going to get hit, and I feel for everybody that bought into it, because it is going to tank the value of those cards. Plus, you know, I feel for people that just enjoy playing Magic in that way. That, you know, they just want a fun combo that they can do. Luckily, there are other fun combos to choose from, but I get it. It's not the same. But at the same time, the deck has been problematic. Now, the format's trying to adjust to it, but, you know, it's really warping what decks can be played and what decks can't be, and that's not necessarily atypical of, you know, a tier deck in the format. You know, a deck that has a large percentage of play in the format because, you know, it's got pretty good game against everything the format can throw at it. But, so I'm not even necessarily saying that because people have had to change their game plan, that means it's a problem. Not really. Because that's kind of how it works. You know, I've talked before about how Modern's just kind of a wheel that ticks. And a lot of times, a deck that was once really good in Modern, assuming, of course, nothing from it's been banned, eventually it'll be really good again. Like, there was a time where Infect was just not viable. And now it's back. And it got a little boost from, like, Scale Up, but there was, like, Humans was tier 1, like, top of the heap for some time. And now it's, well, on the barrage of tier 2 deck lists Corey and Ross played through today on Versus Live, Humans was one of them. Storm's another one. There are times where the meta's in a place where Storm is really good, and there's times where the meta's in a place where Storm is very, very bad. So, formats adjust around certain decks and changes how people mostly organize sideboards and everything. So, as much as I hate Dimir Inverter, and I do, I hate it a lot, I don't disagree with them trying to give the format a chance to find a way around it. Because you need to give the format space to find itself. You know, people rushed in and we had the first handful of decks rise to the top of the format. And you can't just always have the same decks on top, so the format will adjust to deal with that. And it's going to continue to adjust and evolve and become something new and different, you know, as things get to the top and everybody builds to hate that deck, and, you know, it's just kind of the way of things. But they do need to make a determination as to if Dimir Inverter is warping the format too much. Now, if they do decide to ban from that deck, which it's very likely, being that they announced that there's a BNR coming, the way I see it, they can either go for the throat and ban Inverter, because without Inverter, the deck is much less efficient at emptying its library to make Thassa's Oracle and Jace Wielder of Mysteries solid win cons. The other option is to go for Dig Through Time, which Dig Through Time works for that deck in two ways. One, you know, you look at 7, take 2, there's a relatively decent chance you're going to hit your combo pieces in that. And 2, because it's Delve, you empty your graveyard, setting yourself up. Like, you turn 3 dig to, or even turn 4. You know, you have the Thassa's Oracle in hand, but you're going to dig. Well, I guess you can't do that because you've already played the Inverter. I don't know. So, you dig before you Inverter to empty out the graveyard, and you are kind of walking a tightrope because you have to hope that you can pull off one of your alt win con pieces before your opponent manages to get you out of cards, and you lose to the very same strategy that the deck generally uses to win. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens if they go for the soft ban or the hard ban. I just hope, as much as I hate stupid jank alt win cons, I hope they don't go for the soft ban of, like, Thassa or Jace, because I don't think it's going to be enough, being that there's a backup piece, And I think, especially with Thassa's Oracle, you're going to kill some, cute fun decks that people may want to explore, like Mono Blue Devotion. Anyway, that's where we're at. I don't know if I'll get another episode in this week, but we'll see. As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to y'all again this week, but if not, I'll talk to y'all next week.